Hey man, there's a moment in every dynamic where the balance shifts, where a woman who once felt like she was leading the emotional pace suddenly pauses and realizes you're not fully there, not because you're playing games, not because you're trying to manipulate her, but because your heart is no longer available on demand. And that realization doesn't always hit her in some grand, dramatic way. Sometimes it hits quietly, in a missed response, in your calm indifference, in the way your eyes don't flicker with need. And when it does, everything starts to change. Because whether she admits it or not, that's the moment she realizes you're not emotionally hers anymore. When a woman senses that you're emotionally unavailable, it's not always rejection that she feels first, it's confusion. Especially if she's used to men bending, giving, explaining, emoting at every turn. But with you, the energy feels different. You're there, but not fully open. You're listening, but not leaning. You're present, but not attached. And that subtle distance, it disrupts her rhythm. It makes her question, makes her chase a little harder. Not out of insecurity, but out of curiosity. Because the man who doesn't offer his emotions freely is the man who forces her to step out of autopilot. Most women are used to being pursued emotionally, used to men volunteering vulnerability too early, oversharing, over-validating. And when you don't give her that, when you keep your emotional cards close, when you don't pour out your past to earn her sympathy, when you let silence exist between you, she starts wondering what it means. Is he detached? Is he hurt? Is he holding back for a reason? That curiosity becomes a form of emotional tension. And in that tension, she stops feeling like she's in control, because now she's trying to reach you instead of the other way around. And here's the twist. When you're emotionally unavailable, you don't have to say it. She feels it, in how you don't rush to reply, in how you stay calm when she's emotional, in how you remain consistent, yet slightly unreachable. That distance isn't physical, it's energetic, and it speaks louder than any declaration ever could. It says, I felt too much before, I've given too much before, and now I'm not so easy to access. And when she senses that she can't predict or control your emotional responses, that's when the dynamic flips completely. She starts adjusting. She tries harder to pull you in. Her voice softens, her tone shifts, her presence becomes more intentional. Why? Because she realizes the emotional door she thought was wide open isn't. And the only way to get it to open is through effort, through presence, through consistent value. And for the first time, she's not the one choosing who to give herself to. You are. And that shift, that loss of automatic access to your emotions, it makes her value them more than anything else. But there's a deeper layer here. When she realizes you're emotionally unavailable, it also awakens her insecurities, especially if she was used to leading with beauty or charm. When that doesn't crack your shell, when your emotional attention doesn't arrive on cue, she starts reflecting, starts asking herself why, starts questioning her own approach. And that self-questioning, it creates investment. She stops coasting, starts studying your vibe, and every moment you stay calm, contained, and just a little out of reach, she attaches more. Not because you made her chase, but because your energy made her earn access. A man who is emotionally unavailable, but not bitter, carries a power most guys never understand. He's not cold, he's not cruel, he's just self-contained. He doesn't need to open up on demand to validate her. He doesn't react to her mood swings to prove he cares. He offers presence, not performance. And in a world of emotionally loud men who fold at the first sign of silence, that kind of emotional stillness becomes intoxicating. Because now, she's not reacting to your affection, she's waiting for it. When you don't hand over your heart easily, she treats it with more reverence. She leans in closer during conversations. She remembers the details of what little you do share. She listens more closely, not because you're saying more, but because you're saying less. And every word you do give her feels earned. That energy becomes sacred, scarce. It creates emotional contrast that no charm or good looks can replicate. Because now, your emotions aren't just feelings, they're currency. She'll test you harder when she realizes she can't reach you emotionally. She'll try to provoke reactions, draw you out, stir up emotion just to feel close. But the man who's truly emotionally unavailable doesn't flinch. He doesn't fake emotion to smooth tension. He doesn't chase to avoid her withdrawal. He holds, watches, waits. And in that stillness, she begins to sense something deeper. You've been here before, you've played the game before, and now you're not playing anymore. You're guarding your center. This is when she starts to question her own value in the relationship. Not because you made her feel small, but because your emotional restraint forced her to see herself more clearly. Why doesn't he open up to me like others do? Why doesn't he chase when I pull back? Why does his silence feel heavier than other men's presence? Those questions loop in her mind. They don't go away easily, because they weren't born out of your words. They were born out of your emotional posture. The moment she fully accepts that you're emotionally unavailable, she's forced to make a decision she never expected to face. Do I rise to meet this man, or do I retreat to where I feel in control? That internal tug of war becomes the most important part of the entire dynamic, because now she's not reacting from ego, she's being challenged at the level of emotional depth. She has to grow. She has to self-reflect. She has to decide whether she wants to just be seen or whether she's willing to earn the attention of a man who doesn't give it cheaply. And that self-evaluation, that's the kind of internal work most men never spark in her. But you just did, without even trying. Some women will walk away. They'll label you too closed off or too distant, but what they're really saying is, I didn't want to work this hard to feel important, and that's okay. Because emotional unavailability isn't about pushing people away, it's about protecting your energy until someone proves they can handle it. And the ones who can't, they leave. But the ones who stay, they adjust, they step up, they stop asking for access and start earning it. And once a woman begins that process, once she realizes that your emotions are not a playground, but a locked vault with value inside, her behavior fundamentally changes. The deeper truth is, emotional unavailability, when it comes from a place of healing and maturity, becomes a filter. It weeds out the women who are only there to receive. It pulls in the ones who are capable of giving. Because the man who doesn't open up easily teaches her that connection is not about intensity, it's about integrity. You've stopped bleeding your heart for every beautiful woman who smiles your way. You've stopped sharing your soul to feel close. You've stopped offering emotional labor just to keep her interested. And now, you offer presence, silence, calm. And if she can't meet you there, she's not ready for the level you've grown into. And the irony is, once she knows she can't predict or control your emotional availability, that's when she becomes most emotionally available to you. She brings more softness, more warmth. She starts texting first, initiating contact, offering vulnerability. Not because you demanded it, but because she's trying to pull out the version of you she knows exists beneath the surface. And that pull creates one of the most powerful dynamics possible. A woman pursuing emotional closeness with a man who doesn't hand it out by default. That dynamic is rare. And because it's rare, it becomes unforgettable. But there's another layer. Emotional unavailability creates space, not just for her to reach for you, but for you to observe her. You get to watch how she handles emotional distance. Does she panic or stay composed? Does she play games or offer grace? Does she escalate or lean in with maturity? That distance reveals more than any deep conversation ever could, because now you're not being emotionally vulnerable just to connect. You're watching to see if she deserves your connection. That shift puts the power in your hands, not to control her, but to protect yourself. And make no mistake, if she's truly emotionally mature, she won't be scared of your emotional unavailability. She'll respect it. She'll understand that you're not broken, you're selective. That you felt too much, seen too much, given too much, and now you don't open up for entertainment. She'll see it as a challenge, but also an invitation to bring something deeper. And the women who get that, they're the ones worth opening up to. Not because they ask, but because they earn it through consistency, care, and calm. There's something else she begins to realize too, that you're not unavailable to everyone. You're just unavailable to emotional chaos. You're unavailable to immaturity, to drama, to passive aggressiveness, to manipulation. That's when she stops seeing you as distant and starts seeing you as disciplined. You're not afraid to feel, you're just unwilling to feel with someone who hasn't proven she can hold it with you. That realization shifts her perspective from wanting access to wanting to deserve access. And that's when you know you've elevated the entire frame. Eventually, she begins to understand the real message. Your emotional unavailability isn't a wall, it's a standard. A standard that says, I don't offer depth without trust. I don't share heart without safety. I don't give you the full version of me just because you want it. I give it when your presence makes it worth the risk. And that message, even if unspoken, becomes the reason she stops playing games. She stops testing. She starts respecting you the way she never respected the man who gave her his heart without any effort on her part. And if she stays long enough, if she shows consistency, respect, patience, she might start seeing glimpses, a slightly longer text, a deeper conversation, a moment of unexpected softness. And when those moments arrive, they feel different. They feel earned, like a prize, not a favor, like a sacred exchange, not a default setting. And those rare moments become the emotional fuel that keeps her close, not because you're always available, but because you're only available to the right energy. So here's the truth, man. When she realizes you're emotionally unavailable, she'll either elevate or evaporate. And both outcomes serve your peace. Because a man who guards his heart doesn't fear loss. He filters for value. You're not afraid of being alone. You're afraid of being drained by someone who hasn't done the work to hold your depth. And when she sees that, when she feels that, she'll never forget you. Because you weren't the easiest man to love, but you were the one who made love mean something again.